The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
The January 6th committee is back in prime time tonight, and leaders are promising to provide the most compelling evidence so far of what they call former President Trump's dereliction of duty as his supporters storm the U.S. Capitol. NBC's Chris Pallone is on Capitol Hill this morning with more.
In its eighth public hearing, the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol insurrection will focus mainly on one man, former President Donald Trump.
We're going to see what Donald Trump was doing and what he was not doing during that 187-minute fateful period of American history.
187 minutes, the time from when the former president concluded his January 6th speech on the ellipse until he told supporters at the Capitol to go home in a video posted on Twitter. Two former Trump aides are expected to testify, Matthew Pottinger and Sarah Matthews. In their private testimony, both cited a January 6th Trump tweet attacking Mike Pence as the final straw.
The situation was already bad, and so it felt like he was pouring gasoline on the fire by tweeting that.
The former vice president himself back on Capitol Hill Wednesday to meet with House Republicans, many lauding Pence for doing the right thing on January 6th as rioters chanted for him to be hanged. The committee doesn't have the power to charge anyone with a crime, but analysts say its work so far has given the Justice Department a roadmap in its separate investigation into the Capitol attack's origins.
It shows the culmination of the scheme in a way that's going to affect any jury. It reveals his intent, and there can be no claim that he was trying to do the right thing.
As some speculate, the Justice Department would be reluctant to charge a former president or an active candidate with a crime. The Attorney General says not so.
No person is above the law in this country. I can't say it any more clearly than that.
Former President Trump insists he did nothing wrong and that the committee is motivated by politics. While this is its last scheduled public hearing, the January 6th committee does plan to hold more hearings later this year. In Washington, Chris Pallone, NBC News.
And as you just heard, today's hearing is expected to focus on former President Donald Trump's actions on January 6th as the attack was unfolding. Our political reporter Maddie Gannon breaks down how that could involve Bakersfield's own Congressman, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy has spoken publicly multiple times in the months after January 6th about a phone call he said he had with Trump as the attack started to unfold. McCarthy talked about the phone call in an interview with Fox News on the night of January 6th, saying he explained to the then president what was going on at the Capitol. A few months later on Fox, McCarthy mentioned the phone call again, saying the call ended with Trump saying he would put something out to stop the attack. Other Republican lawmakers later said the call led to a shouting match between McCarthy and Trump, with GOP Representative Jamie Herrera Butler writing in a statement that Trump reportedly told McCarthy, quote, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are." Then the reporting came out that there were no calls recorded on the White House switchboard call log for about 7 hours on January 6th, including when the attack was happening. That means a couple of high-profile phone calls Trump reportedly had that day, including with McCarthy, are not on record. We should note we reached out to McCarthy's office when this reporting came out and did not hear back. The White House switchboard doesn't keep track of conversations the president has over personal cell phones, White House landlines, or aides' phones. McCarthy and Trump may have communicated over one of these types of phones. And with the panel expected to focus on Trump's actions as the attack was unfolding, it's possible we may learn more about this phone call tonight. In studio, Maddie Gannon, 17 News.
And we have a programming note. Tonight's January 6th primetime hearing begins at 5 p.m. right here on KGET. And then we have a special edition of 17 News following the hearing. That starts at 7 o'clock. And after the newscast, you can tune into Robert Price's special report on the 1952 earthquake, 33 days that changed Bakersfield. It airs at 7:30 sharp, and we'll hope you'll join us then. 6:07 is our time now, and in your 17 Crime Watch this morning, the city of Wasco is exploring the idea of creating its own police department. Right now, there are 15 Kern County Sheriff's deputies assigned to Wasco, a city of more than 27,000 people. According to Wasco's mayor, Gilberto Reyna, residents are unhappy with the amount of time it takes deputies to respond to emergencies. He says the sheriff's office, which has more than 350 vacancies, does not have the staffing required to serve the people of Wasco.
I do not blame the deputies. The deputies are doing the best they can under the circumstances, but I do think that we deserve better, that our city deserves a better police service.
The mayor says creating a police department is a lengthy process, and there's countless questions that remain unanswered. And that is why a committee was formed to explore possible costs associated with creating the department. The committee will present its findings to the Wasco City Council at a later date.
The Kern County Sheriff's Office continues to struggle filling vacant positions for detention deputies. The Kern County Board of Supervisors heard a report on vacancy rates for local detention deputies Tuesday. Officials say the department has a vacancy rate of 39.4%. It's a significant increase from just last year when the department had a vacancy rate of 32%. Right now, officials say there are 114 vacant positions. 22 deputies were hired recently, but the SO says 57 have left to seek other employment or retire.
Now to a shocking update on a story that frightened many people in our community, especially parents. The sheriff's office says a pill found stuck to a fast food burrito in Bakersfield last month did contain fentanyl, but the pill did not come from the restaurant. Deputies say the burrito was purchased from the Del Taco on Merle Haggard Drive on June 25th. When the family returned home to eat, they said that they discovered a pill stuck to the outside of their 9-year-old child's burrito. Deputies took the pill to the Kern County Crime Lab for testing. KCSO says the lab results show the pill did contain fentanyl, but investigators say no one at Del Taco put the pill in the burrito. Deputies are still trying to determine how the pill got into the burrito wrapping, and they're speaking to a few people of interest, although the people that they are talking to are not related to the child who found the pill.
Your time is 5:09 and making news around the state this morning. Superheroes, science fiction, and so much fun. Comic-Con's welcoming hundreds of thousands of fans for the first time in 3 years. Jennifer Bjorklund is in San Diego with more.
They've been waiting years for this, but the last few minutes are just too much. A stampede of fans for a first look at Comic-Con 2022.
So good to be back after 3 years.
Too excited about it. We did come down here. We live in San Diego, so we came down here the last 2 years and we had a shrine. So we are super happy to be back. Magic be upon you.
And costumes. 75-year-old Dude Vader has been here since the beginning in 1970.
As you know, Han Solo would say, we're home.
But not literally home. Being here is a nice departure from the last few years where Comic-Con fans met online. Screens and headsets replacing all of this.
For me, the biggest fun and that I look forward to this weekend is actually meeting the people.
And discovering new things that you might not run into unless you're here, where it's not just comic books and superheroes, but also major studio projects and TV shows with a fantasy edge. Everyone is here with a first look at what they hope everyone will be talking about.
If you were sitting at home and just curating, I want to sit and watch the specific 2 panels and that's kind of it, okay, but if you're here for the whole weekend, you're going to want to fill your day, and this allows you to do that in fantastic ways. This is basically the Olympics of nerd culture, and we're all winners.
135,000 people proving that the geeks are the cool kids.
Fans will get a first look at a Lord of the Rings prequel, the last episodes of The Walking Dead, and a Dungeons & Dragons movie. 3 big headlines aside from the obvious one that Comic-Con is back.
And like we mentioned, 70 years ago today, Kern County was forever changed. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake, the 3rd strongest in recorded California history, then and still, shook buildings and shook nerves throughout much of the Southern Valley.
The first earthquake was centered near Tehachapi in Arvin, and 33 days later, the strongest of the many aftershocks destroyed much of Bakersfield. 17's Robert Price has been researching the seismic legacy of the fateful summer of '52, and we have his preview of his special report that airs tonight at 7:30.
Ken Vetter was 22 years old on July 21, 1952, when a few minutes before dawn, he was jolted awake by the first and most powerful of what would be a series of seismic shocks. He bolted to the door and opened it just in time to be met with a wave of water. The 100-foot-high elevated water tank across the street had come crashing down and threw him back like a rag doll.
Oh, the whole wall was gone. The wall, all the debris, furniture, bed, and all was all piled up at the end of the room.
33 days later, Tommy Hayes, a Bakersfield Sound-era guitar player, was filling out paperwork to sell his motorcycle when the last and most powerful of a succession of aftershocks hit Bakersfield the afternoon of August 22nd, 1952.
Everything started shaking and rattling. So my instinct was to get out of there, so I did. I ran out in the middle of the street. I turned around and looked at the brick building, and I just ran out of it. And the cracks were about 10 of them. They were just going like this. So I thought the bricks are going to fall right on me out here, so I ran back inside.
Ken Brenneman, the longtime, now retired bartender at Bill Lee's restaurant, was not quite 9 years old that day. He was at the California Theater on Chester Avenue with his brother and a friend to see King Kong, and he thought he'd better use the restroom upstairs before the show started.
So I put my foot on the first step to go upstairs, and boom, the earthquake hit. So I grabbed the handrail and just kind of stayed there when everything was shaking. My brother said the first thing he noticed was the candle went up to the ceiling, then to the left, then to the right, then it quit working.
Hank Webb was 12 years old that day. When the big aftershock hit, he was in his sister's car, and they were approaching downtown.
I looked towards town. There was just a giant cloud of dust. The clock tower had fallen down, and right on the corner where the Hall of Records is, there was a black woman in a nurse's uniform who had fainted. She was flat out on her back, but by God, her purse was still in her hand, you know.
Those are just some of the stories I'll share Thursday about the 1952 Kern County earthquake's 33 terrifying days. See it here on KGET 17. I'm Robert Price.
And again, our Robert Price has that report tonight at 7:30. However, he will join us live in studio this morning at 6:30 to preview that special.
Your time now is 5:36. Crime and homelessness are two big problems facing Bakersfield. And yesterday we got an update on what's being done during the State of the City address. Mayor Karen Goh shared her optimism for Bakersfield during a turbulent year. She says homelessness is one of the most pressing issues facing our community.
I'm grateful that with our community partners, we have doubled the number of shelter beds. And for the first time in recent memory, the number of individuals inside a shelter outnumbered those on the street.
City Manager Christian Clegg says the city is putting more money toward public safety and taking a bite out of violent crime.
We have 83 more patrol officers today than we had in 2018. In addition, because we've focused and targeted best practice programs around gun violence, we've seen a 30% reduction this year in gang-related gun violence and homicides.
Despite fears of the potential future, officials say the city budget is up $55 million from last year as well.
Workers at Kern Medical say they will not take to the picket lines next week as originally planned, as they consider what the hospital calls its last best offer presented to employees on Monday. 17's Christian Galeno has the more.
Kern medical workers will hold off on walking the picket lines for another couple of weeks.
I've known of nurses who will work 6 days straight just to cover staffing shortages.
For almost 2 decades, Diane Smith has cared for mothers and their babies at Kern Medical. She plans on walking off the job if hospital management doesn't put a stop to issues that are causing the hospital to hemorrhage essential workers.
Your patients are not getting the attention, the care that they need. Those are breaking points in a person's career because you are forced to reassess your values.
Kern Medical's Board of Governors voted Wednesday to approve a $15 million outsourcing contract with independent contractor Aya Healthcare Incorporated to staff the hospital for a whole year upon the start of the strike.
It's an insult.
It's become apparent that this strike is no longer about wages. We have an understanding for what that is, and it is manageable with some difficulty.
The turnover and short staffing and unfair labor practices are so severe, we've been forced to potentially walk the strike line in order to stand up for trauma patients from all walks of life.
And that's why we keep coming to work, because we care for our patients and we want to be there for our patients. However, if management continues to treat staff the way they do and continue to violate workers' rights, management will be losing a lot of very dedicated, committed staff, and that's unfortunate.
Christian Galeno reporting. Union members were poised to strike next Tuesday, but now say it will be August 9th if an agreement with Kern Medical is not reached.
17 court watch this morning, and making news around the state. The Kristen Smart trial is set to resume today in Monterey County after yesterday's hearing was postponed. The proceedings were put on hold over an unexpected health concern. Just a reminder, 45-year-old Paul Flores is charged with the murder in the disappearance of the Cal Poly student who was last seen leaving an off-campus party in May of 1996. Flores' father, Ruben Flores, is also accused of helping hide Smart's body, which has never been found. Opening statements for Ruben Flores will resume today at 8:30 a.m. Presentation of evidence is scheduled to begin about an hour later.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.